Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, it is Liana Voya in Alexandria at the Glassblowing Place with Eric Covington, one of the founders of the Glassblowing Place. Mr. Covington, thank you for finding time to see me today and your wonderful featured artists. And before we go and speak with the artists, I would like you to give us a short introduction of the Glassblowing Place, like how long has it been here and so on.
Okay. The Glassblowing Place was started almost exactly a year ago, December 1st last year. We moved the equipment in, and it took us 5 months to build the studio in the back, so we really only opened the doors sometime in May. After that, we, of course, started to blow for our gallery out front here, and from that we then developed our guest artist program, which got more artists in here, and now we have 6 glass blowers working at any one time.
And it is from what I saw on your website, each artist is doing something different. Can you give us an understanding of what you do?
Yeah, well, my particular passion, if you will, is doing what's called murine, which is an Italian style of making canes and then cutting them up and putting them into long glass pieces. Somehow that appeals to me in terms of the application of color very exactly. Each artist has their own particular style, as you'll see when you look around the studio here.
Thank you so much. Mr. David Patterson, another founder of the Glassblowing Place, is with us today. And Mr. Patterson, could you give us a short description of what you do as an artist?
I produce organic forms, hand-blown forms. They range in size from little teeny pieces to, 1.5 feet high, up to 10 or 15 pounds in weight. And I've been doing glass blowing since the 1980s.
I wanted to ask you, because you're experienced glass blowers, and what are the challenges of doing this type of art? Mr. Covington, Mr. Patterson, who wants to take the question?
Okay. I guess I can handle it. Probably the biggest challenge, as with any art, is to make enough money to put the bread on the table. And that's clearly a challenge here. And I'm in a lucky position that I'm a retired person, so I can spend my time here doing as I please. Other artists, of course, have to work very much harder than I do to achieve their goals.
Mr. Patterson, what inspires you when you do art, glass blowing?
Oh, the brilliant color. It's like working with liquid gemstones, working with glass. No matter what you make out of it, it's beautiful.
Mr. Covington, how many glass-blowing artists are in Ontario? Is there not too many, probably?
I don't really know a number, but probably I could count the studios on 2 hands. They're really not a huge number. It's a very expensive art form to take part in because it requires all that heavy equipment that you see in the back.
And we have 2 featured artists from Quebec. Melissa, you're going to go first.
Melissa Janson.
Melissa, how long are you going to be doing the show here, and what is the main theme of your art?
The show here is for 1 month, and I usually do stuff inspired about nature, sky, SeaWorld, forests, and about humanity, about how people act in their life.
Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that women were not really perceived before as glass blowers, and we are seeing more and more women glass blower artists. What's it like to be a woman in this type of art?
Well, I think it's not really hard to be a woman in this type of art. There is a lot of women now. We can see more and more. So it's like everything else in the life. We see more women everywhere. So I think it's not so difficult.
You are actually correct. You're right. I was at the Corning Museum, and one of the people who did the demonstration was a woman, and I was very happy to see that. I wanted to ask you, Melissa, What attracts you to this type of art? I mean, why not painting? Why not, sculpture? Why this?
Well, I was just fascinated by the material, how it moves, how you can shape it, just the liquidity of the thing. That's it.
Clément, you are also from Quebec, and you're going to be here for 1 month, like Melissa. What attracted you to glass blowing?
Actually, what attracted me with glass blowing is probably the technical process of making the glass, and the material also, which is kind of a liquid, with a solid liquid, and to know how it's done, and probably also a return to art.
What would you say the main challenges for a young glass-blowing artist are, today?
If it's a primary field, the most difficult part is probably to start your own enterprise, because you don't really have somewhere to work, so you have to create your own. And that wasn't my choice, actually. I chose something else, and I do that as a secondary life. And so that's basically the main problem, is to try to live with it, and having like at least a 5 year of starting enterprise. And
Melissa, is this what you do full time?
No, it isn't. It's just pastime too.
Mm-hmm. And do you do it for your own self-satisfaction or for other purposes?
For my own satisfaction, yes.
For those people who do not know much about the glass blowing, and maybe they have never seen a glass blowing show, could you describe, what is the process of creating, like in very few words? Okay, she points to Clément. Okay, Clément, you take it.
the process, well, depends on how you create. But for my part, the process is more about if I have an idea, I mostly express deep thoughts about life and introspection. So when I have the reflection, I mostly come with a concept, and then I try to find a symbol to interpret actually this concept. So that's the main part, and then I have to find maybe the best technique to be able to make that concept being concrete or to live actually in a piece.
I would like to go to Mr. Covington and Mr. Patterson. I would like to go to the beginnings of you becoming artists, and I'm guessing, I always wonder how an artist decides to become an artist. Sometimes it's circumstances, sometimes this is what they want. How did you arrive to glassblowing, Mr. Patterson or Mr. Covington?
Sure. Yeah, I actually only found art after I retired. I used to run businesses, and I was a technician kind of person. When I finally retired, I found that I was always a rock collector. So I had rocks in my garage, rocks in my basement, everywhere. I started carving them as something to do. When I got into jade carving, then I realized I had a passion. And my forms are all curvilinear, and I'm very... as David says, very organic in my basis. One of my mentors in rock carving and jade carving suggested that I should look at glass blowing because I was having trouble mounting my pieces. None of my pieces have flat bottoms to set them on a shelf. They're meant to be held. So I eventually met David, actually, who's the other glass blower here, when I took my first glass blowing course in Merrickville. After about the first 20 minutes, I was asking David, how do I set up my own studio? So I was hooked right away. And glass blowing is not so much a passion as a real addiction. I get crazy when I can't blow glass for more than 2 weeks. If I'm not blowing glass, I get squirrely and strange. So it's really an addiction once you get hooked into glass.
Mr. Patterson, how did you arrive to glass blowing?
Well, when I was younger, I thought I wanted to be something technical, maybe an engineer. But I took some courses at Sheridan College. I was doing pottery as a hobby,
and they had a glass blowing program, and I played around a bit, and I realized at the time that I could probably succeed at it as much from my technical background as I could from an artistic background. 'Cause in those days, you built all your own equipment. Today, you can buy it. It's expensive. So you had to build everything. And that's what got me going in a different type of career than a corporate job.
And have you done this full-time all your life or on the side like Melissa?
I've done it full-time since the 1980s.
And Mr. Covington?
I've only been doing it for about 4 years and only really full-time this last year.
I will go back to Melissa because I feel that she, doesn't want to tell me everything about her work. Melissa, please come closer to your art. This is your art here?
Yes.
I would like you to, I see that you're doing pendants and, is this yours too?
Yes.
These are gorgeous hands. Can you describe what the material that you used here?
This end is pâte de verre. It's made with mold, plaster mold, and filled with glass pieces, and then it's put into a kiln for several days. So it makes the end when we unmold it. And the nails are made with copper, and it's a patina on it.
I really love how you bring out this feminine side of you. It's down here. Is it difficult to work on these rocks?
Well, it's difficult because it's broken pieces. I made a half sphere and then I break it, and I have to deal with the broken pieces of the glass decide to make this shape. So it's not easy to fix it on a jewel, on a pendant or ring.
So you love jewelry. You create jewelry. And when you sit down and decide to create something, what inspires you? What are you thinking? Do you look at, fashion and you think, oh, that would work with that dress, or something else?
I don't really look at fashion. I just look at what I like, what I think is nice. I just want just make things that I would buy. Just I don't know where the idea comes. Just try something and say, oh wow, it's amazing. So I'll do. I try to do some others.
I have to say, you pay such good attention to detail. You're working on small surfaces, and I'm imagining that it's not easy.
No, it's not really easy, but it's part of me. I'm a perfectionist, working always with little things. I'm better with little things than with big shapes.
Clément, can you describe what you do? It's over there?
No, that's still hers.
Where is it?
All about oxes is mine.
Okay, can you, oh, beautiful oxes.
Yeah, well, everything I do is about ox, so it has something to do with mythology, with the inner beast of ourselves, and about relationship with other people, but also with our own self.
You see, you also look at the relationship of, between nature, animals, and also humans, because it is you looking at the way you represent the animal, and also it's part of the nature.
Yeah, it has some part with the nature, but it's mostly a symbol, which is represented here by an animal.
When you say symbol, you mean mythology, or?
Well, yeah, it could be mythology, but it could be just your inner voice that tries to find a balance just when you make a decision. Are you going to or not? And that's your inner voice, and I just represent that with a strong animal like an ox.
To our listeners, the website for the glass blowing place is the glass blowing place. Oh, sorry, it is glassblowingplace.com. And Melissa, Clément, I'm assuming you have separate websites. Can you give your website?
I don't have a website yet. On the Glassblowing website, yeah.
Okay.
Same thing for us. Yeah, it's still in progress. So.
Thank you so much. And I believe we have a few more minutes. Mr. Patterson, What inspires you when you work? What do you meditate, or you're just, in a very deep, reflective state? I'm trying to see, how do you produce? How do you create?
It's very relaxing doing glass blowing. After you've done it for a period of time, it's very relaxing. It's like going for a nice walk in the country, except you're creating beautiful work.
Mr. Covington, I wanted to ask you, are there any hazards related to glass blowing? I'm assuming like in anything there's a hazard.
Yeah, there certainly are hazards, but with care there's not a huge hazards. Probably the biggest hazard is maybe getting a little burn if you touch the wrong thing. But then again, that's sort of like life. If you step in front of a bus, it will run you down. If you grab a hot piece of glass, it'll burn you. The only other really environmental risk is we do deal with powdered glass at times, and we have to be careful about getting silica in our lungs. So that's why we wear respirators when we're working with that.
I would like to go to the words glass blowing. Now, how much blow does it take? How much air? It is my understanding that very little actually blow is. So because we are thinking that glass blowing, it takes a lot of lungs, and it's not like that, Mr. Patterson.
Well, on big pieces we cheat. We use compressed air. Mm-hmm. And smaller pieces, it's just air trap in your mouth. It's not. It's like blowing a tuba or something. It's not a big deal.
Do you find that because you're standing a lot, right? In this you're not sitting. What's it like to be standing for hours and working on this?
Well, actually, you don't stand for hours because you're constantly moving back and forth from the furnace to the chair to the bench where you are sitting. So it's up and down, and probably the biggest physical stress is getting up from the bench. If after you've gotten up from the bench the 100th time in the day, it gets old.
You are also exposed to very high heat, right? No, you're not?
Not particularly high. I mean, it feels like opening a very warm oven when you're cooking in the kitchen. Of course, you don't put your hand in it because it is really hot inside, and sometimes when we're doing very big pieces, we will wear protective clothing because the glass itself gives off a radiant heat.
Melissa, it is my understanding from what I saw in a glass-blowing show that you have to be very careful how to control the temperature. You don't want to expose glass to a sudden drop. Otherwise, it's going to break right there. How do you control that? And because you're working with such small pieces.
Well, I don't do a lot of glass blowing. All my small pieces are made with kiln casting. So in glass blowing, it's not easy to control. It's just with the feeling, the eyes, and sometimes we make mistakes and we start over, and we just with the eye.
Clément, your art is sculpture of glass. And what are the challenges of doing sculptures?
The challenge for sculptures is mostly to have, since it's a sculpture, you have to have a concept to make the piece alive. But besides that, depending on the size of the piece, mostly for those big pieces, there's a technical challenge about it, to have a mold that size and to have that amount of glass, which is about 20 kilos right now, and the time it takes to transform and anneal this glass, which is about 2 weeks. So it's a long process just to think about the program you're going to do to transform and remove the stress out of the glass, and it holds in one piece at the end.
Mr. Patterson, is there a demand for glass blowing classes?
We've taught a lot of small classes here that take about an hour. Over the years, I've taught many, many 2-day workshops. That's what Eric took years ago when he got involved in this. So there's certainly a demand, yeah.
Mr. Covington, I have a very difficult question for you. Do you keep track of how much work have you done, how many exhibits, how many pieces?
I personally don't, because this for me, as I say, is a passion, and it's really just, I don't even want to say a hobby. So I'm not counting it. I'm not creating art for money myself. Obviously, most artists have to make money with what they do. I'm just having fun.
Melissa, what are your projects for the near future, the new year, right, for next year? you are here for a month, and then next year, do you have everything or something planned already?
I have nothing planned already. I'll just come back here sometimes to blow glass, just to have fun and trying to make pieces for sale.
Clement, I'm thinking that it's hard for a glassblower artist to find a place to exhibit. It's easier than gallery, painters, they just find a gallery and they go and you could even go to a park and exhibit. For a glassblowing artist, you cannot just take your, sculptures and put them in a park. So how do you find, marketing, promoting your art?
Well, if it's just about galleries, of course there's less than paintings, and they have to have an interest in glass in general, and there's a few here, unless you want to go outside Quebec or Canada, there's probably more interest there. And about the marketing, I don't know. I'm not really working to promote my art. Not right now. I just finished in 2009, and since then it was a little bit on the ice, and with the day-to-day events it bring us here, but we're not really working to put our stuff in market right now, so it mostly comes to us. Yeah, and yeah, that's it.
Mr. Patterson, what are the most, the projects that you have in mind for next year?
That's a good question. Larger sculptural pieces, I think, for next year. Yeah.
Is it easier or harder working on larger pieces?
Well, larger pieces would be made in parts and then assembled. So it's a more complicated endeavor.
Mr. Covington, what are your projects for next year?
Hard to say, but really to, again, make more marine, use a lot of color, and I'm always sort of find I'm pushing myself outside my artistic and more technical limits, so I'm sort of always trying to stretch myself. So I probably, as an artist, I probably have more what we call floor models or accidents that are not saleable than successes, but when I have a success, I feel so good about hitting one out of the park.
To our listeners, you can also watch Melissa, Clement, Mr. Patterson, Mr. Covington showing their art in a few videos, which we are going to do right after this interview. Again, I would like to invite everyone to visit glassblowingplace.com and look at the classes that they are offering, at the work that Melissa and Clement are presenting, and also the work that Mr. Covington, Mr. Patterson, and 4 other glass artists are presenting here. Just for, out of respect for the other 4, can we just mention their names?
Yeah, there's Chris Van Zanten, there's Paolo Bastianello, and Giovanni Voltanin. Yeah.
Mr. Patterson, I'm coming to you just because I want to thank you for sending me the invitation. I am very grateful to you for, remembering me because I sent you an email a long time ago, and I know you're very, very busy. Thank you so much again, and I wish everyone a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, everyone.